This video taken by the ISUPK is posted on the school's website and on YouTube. He says he and members of his Christian Bible school are well within their First Amendment rights. But shop owners say they've heard enough. Today in court, their lawyers argued the group is trespassing. In addition, they say the group's offensive.
Niggas want me dead. Crackers too, but these coon ass niggas, they for the feds. My stick full of lead. In case these whole niggas try me, man, I'ma have to make that bed. No need to even flex. Cause how I walk it, how I talk it, let you know my speech direct. You heard what I said. Another move, your life passing through your mind, now you're big. And I'm fresh like a motherfucker. Niggas hating cause they more want us. I'm just coolin' by myself, but now they all on me. Shut up, bitch, eat a dick, I don't wanna love you. Sippin' that pool, wow, got you laced up out your shoe now. Look what you finna do, wow, it's hot. Hop around these niggas till you flop. I'm busy getting mine, but all these niggas wanna dock. But it's cool, let me know I'm on the top. Steady in the courtroom, always fighting cops. Call the white man the devil, and that's off the top. So they try to stop my movement with a block, but I beat the case every damn time, so they watch. Waiting on the nigga to try to make me slip up. Walking up on me like homeboy, what's in your cup? Do you have any drugs? Well, let me see the slugs. Make it your bitch ass back, get mad, you ain't getting love. Your wife made you clip it damn nuts, yeah, I know. Crazy what coon people will do for these hoes. But I ain't even pressed, I see why you going on. My nigga, you dead wrong, bust a netball, get it on.
Black and white land, shit is crazy.
Preach about how they hate white people.
I'm freshen up, cleaner than the motherfucker. Good juice in my cup is redder than the bloodsucker. Drip on leak, yeah, drip on me. Hey, talking about, but what the fuck do you mean? Yeah, you see these damn bitches, they be choosing on me. But I don't want the bitch, but that bitch drooling on me. I get to walking on the girl, she wanna moving with me. But I won't have it cause she easy like spaghetti, homie. Unleash it to the G. Who is he, that nigga from SC? Get your level straight before you approach a G. Sion TC 0013. Sits on the stick, it got me cruising off the scene. The fuck do you mean? Yeah, nigga, yeah. They nigga be hating, but they can't penetrate us. Trying to shoot at us now later, but I'ma get you now. Potato on the bow, blang, blow.
But even 30 years later, videos don't necessarily lead to convictions of officers. Advocates for reform say that needs to change.
Shaw, that's it.
Nigga Shaw, man, you know what I'm saying? Realest nigga out there, man. Nigga turned up, feel me? Nigga turned the city up, fucking with his music. We out of color right now.
Where we at though? Where we at?
Greenville, South Carolina.
Backstage.
Yeah, nigga. Fake ass nigga. You ain't no Israelite, bitch, you a gospelite, bitch. Fuck you talking about? If that nigga won't walk, bitch, we ready. It ain't hard to find us. Hawk, I keep that stick locked, loaded, boy, he'll fade you line up. Young nigga named Slayer, what you think, boy, you be done to try. Soft coast shit, we bout it. UPK, soup solid, little bitch think I'm crazy, think I'm playing like bitch, I ain't the one. Warfare every day, so who is you, bitch? I don't need your love. Killers right round the way, what you think? I love this brotherhood, hood. More than you, bitch. Sharp on shit, I'm bout it. UPK, soup solid. Fuck nigga don't want war. It ain't enough clips in your army. All the bitches wanna take my piece. All they hoes wanna take my piece. All the nigga wanna take my piece. No, I can't let a dog take it from me. I can't let a dog take it from me. You a hoe study and you dummy. And these bitches really out this bitch walking around like they don't know nothing. And a lame nigga fall for them and get set up for the coins and get gunned down, man down. Shoulda took the time, get a damn no. But I see the starter and I show her. She could never get a priest hoe. You a dirt ass, rust ass neck bitch with a fake ass jury. In Tennessee while I'm touring. That's a Tennessee, but she luring. Yeah, that sucker duck bitch ass boy, fuck nigga over that bit muggin'. I say, if that nigga won't walk, bitch, we ready. It ain't hard to find us. Hawk, I keep that stick locked, loaded, boy, he'll fade you line up. Young nigga named Slayer, what you think, boy, you be done to try. Soft coast shit, we bout it. UPK, soup solid, little bitch think I'm crazy, think I'm playing like bitch, I ain't the one. Warfare every day, so who is you, bitch? I don't need your love. Killers right round the way, what you think? I love this brotherhood, hood. More than you, bitch. You a lame nigga down to me. Eat candy, but I'm sucker free. You a little nigga, ain't none of me. Base up, boy, I fit a beat. Yeah, AR-223. Draco with a magazine. Yeah, that clip run like limousine. I shoot your ass in the spleen. Boy, I bust your ass in a temple. We debating why the temple. Tell the truth, boy, you's a victim. And you're scoring nigga come down my road. Boy, come down my road, boy, I charge your ass toll fee. I'm a real big priest, nigga. UPK play for keys, nigga. Command the general get a damn order, but ain't nothing to me to damn kill you. I was talking his ass like a cat. All weapons, boys full of tech. Boy, like a close combat. Nigga got popped off for a neck. If that nigga won't walk, bitch, we ready. It ain't hard to find us. Hawk, I keep that stick locked, loaded, boy, he'll fade you line up. Young nigga named Slayer. What you think, boy? You be done to try. South Coast shit, we bout it. UPK, shoot solid. Little bitch think I'm crazy, think I'm playing like bitch, I ain't the one. Walk out every day, so who is you, bitch? I don't need your love. Killers right round the way. What you think? I love this brotherhood or hood? More than you, bitch.
Christ said 7 women gonna be on one nigga in the end time. Nigga, fuck wrong with you, boy. Stressed by that damn hoe ass bitch. Fake ass nigga too. Dumb ass motherfucker. Fuck you.
That fucking job, it ain't no more applying. Fuck that fucking job, boy, I'm sick and I'm tired. Fuck that fucking job, all that bitching and crying, and I'm saying fuck that fucking job, nigga. Fuck that fucking job, bitch. Fuck that fucking job, we gon' be rich tomorrow. Fuck that fucking job, it ain't no more applying. Fuck that fucking job, bitch, I done had enough. Fuck that fucking job, I'm watching everybody work. Fuck that fucking job, that little pay by the hour. Yeah, fuck that fucking job, my back hurting and I'm hungry. Yeah, fuck that fucking job, nigga, on soul. Yeah, caught between the two, get this money, go home. Yeah, all these people so, all these bitches, they messy. First day I came in, I bossed up on the bosses. And they promised nigga this, promised nigga that. Want my ass to work, then bring that paper back. Sharp, where you been? I been taking the shit. Knowing damn well that I don't fucking sleep. Fuck that fucking job, we gon' be rich tomorrow. Fuck that fucking job, it ain't no more applying. Fuck that fucking job, boy, I'm sick and I'm tired. Fuck that fucking job, all that bitching and crying, and I'm saying fuck that fucking job, nigga. Fuck that fucking job, bitch. Fuck that fucking job, we gon' be rich tomorrow. Fuck that fucking job, it ain't no more applying. Fuck that fucking job, me and bro, we just posted. Look him in the eye, shake my head disappointed. We gotta visualize, summarize, execute. All these people drop like fly, why the fuck we still here? Man, fuck that fucking job, when I pull up I hate it. Yeah, fuck that fucking job, that's on all of their faces. Fuck that fucking job, man, I'm already lit. Man, I hear one thing, boy, you bound to get hit. Man, these bills cross a nigga's brain. Damn, that's how you keep a nigga damn a slave. Damn, money supposed to be a tool. Damn, for a purpose, what's your purpose for? Fuck that fucking job, we gon' be rich tomorrow. Fuck that fucking job, it ain't no more applying. Fuck that fucking job, boy.
We talking about practice, not a game, not the game that I go out there and die for and play every game like it's my last. Not the game. We talking about practice, man. I mean, how silly is that? And we talking about practice.
Best believe that I'm top 3. The only thing is I'm not 2 and I'm not 3. Put me anywhere other than one that is not me. It's beef, we strut a nigga block, that's chopped cheese. No peace, the butterfly sting him, that's Ali. You reach, I teach him with the handle, that's Kyrie. Machines, you hook like a Roman, that's IV. You a sheep, I'ma go, it's a difference, so watch me. You weak, all hooks, no punches, so block these. They mock me, I just show them how it goes. Try to stomach this thug life. They ring got the nose, bandana on the grip. All heads coming out the foe, connected from Cali to New York, nigga, so let it go. Made for this, nigga, I eat bars and drink flows. Thinking you woke into your third eye, peephole. Line for line, this shit too easy, it's like a free throw. Mastered the game too early, this bitch a cheat code. It ain't a game, these niggas lame, they bring a shame. If I'm with an officer, it's a number in his name. We ain't the same, you want the easy pass, tell him change his lane. Shit, I've been through the fire, you can't stand the rain, take an aim. Tell him runner, he can try his best. Drive a car named after me, that's why I'm in the vet. Laugh at these niggas once again and I ain't break a sweat. Number one at everything I do, that's why I'm one west. The Lord is not the God of the dead, so when I die, coming back for my spot, so forever I'm top 3. Just tell him to watch this, janitor with the mop stick. You gon' need a defensive lineman to block this. On point when I bomb shit, 10 for 10 I do not miss. I'm barking with a full bulldog, it is not mixed. They can see that my mind's sick, I don't write, I find shit. I don't like it, then I switch. If I touch it, it's diamond. Tell a bitch that I'm God sent. It ain't because my kicks is built like 5'6", 5'7", is my bitch. Dangerous, high risk, I lose it, get another one. You think I'm talking about a girl, I'm talking about another gun. We here now? Hey, look, it is what it is now. We don't fuck with the house niggas, we burn the crib now. I'm ahead now, and I hope they can hear now. I don't care if you think it's it, nigga, I don't fear clowns. Silences make it sound like raindrop, that's a quiet storm. Get the job done in the view and get fired on. If you niggas standing for nothing, what you dying for? If you put real with real, that's how I was born. Walking this bitch ready for war, I'm in riot form. I want these niggas to see me flex, that's why I am armed. I shouldn't live in the crib, nigga, I should buy a farm to go through this shit so effortless. Best believe that I'm top 3. Only thing is, I'm not 2 and I'm not 3. Best believe that I'm top 3. Only thing is, I'm not 2 and I'm not 3. Best believe that I'm top 3. Only thing is, I'm not 2 and I'm not 3.
Helps when you unmute the microphone. Shalom, Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahweh Shai Brakatha, Yahweh Shema Al-Thah Ba'Shem Yahweh Shai. All right, so this is ISUPK Monday history class. This is captain of 10,000 Parasha out of the ISUPK in the UK. Getting brother in. Shalom, Mausa, Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahweh Shai Brakatha.
Shalom, Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahweh Shai Brakatha.
All right, let's get cracking. All right, so, for those of you that are new to class, we do have a school in the UK. The address is 394 Lodge Road. Postcode is B185PW. And this school is located in the city of Birmingham, England, right? And from this school, we teach classes 4 times a week. So you got the Monday class, 7 till 9. You got the Tuesday Brotherhood class, Wednesday Law class, and Thursday Scripture Breakdown class. Then on Friday, you have On the Ends. It's not in the school, but it's ISUPK, UK's radio show. Then also on Friday, you got the Lashawan Qudash class done by Officer 500 Ra'awaban out of Manchester in England too. Then on Saturday, we got the Sir Abba service. That's done at 10 a.m. till 11. 1 second, okay. Yeah. All right. So that's what we got going on. Then also do catch us at camp. You know what I mean? We're on the Birmingham High Street, and also in central London, Piccadilly Circus. You know what I mean? So we got videos. Check us out on YouTube, ISUPK United Kingdom. Also Facebook, ISUPK United Kingdom. Also on TikTok, Instagram. You know what I mean? You can look us up online, get the directions here, by car, by walking, by train, by any means necessary. All right. So with that being said, if you have any questions you would like to ask in the class, regardless of it being a history class, you just type them in. All right. But in today's history class, we're going to go into Nimrod and the Tower of Babel. So, many people, they read the Bible, they hear about a man called Nimrod and the Tower of Babel, where everyone got their languages from. So in today's history class, we're going to show you that Nimrod did exist. He is written in history. And also the Tower of Babel as well, what they found, you know what I mean? And languages being changed. We're going to get into some science on languages, and it's not far-fetched that when the Bible says, the Lord confounded languages, it's not, something that, only the Bible can approve that. There is resources out there and history that breaks down language. So in today's class, that's what we're going to be getting into. All right. So with that being said, let's get Genesis 10 and 1.
Good one, Khan. Genesis 10 verse 1. Now these are the generation of the sons of Noah, Shem, Ham, and Japheth, and unto them were born sons after the flood.
Okay, so now this is breaking down the flood. Now this is what happened after the flood. So after, Noah, the ark, it landed, the flood was over. Noah had 3 sons, Ham, Shem, and Japheth. So now, of course, they had descendants from after the flood. Let's skip to verse 9. Verse 8.
Okay, Genesis 10 verse 8. And Cush begat Nimrod. He began to be a mighty one in the earth.
All right, so now I'll give you some context. So Ham, Shem, and Japheth. With Ham, he's the father of the Africans. So on that continent of Africa, whether you're from North Africa, East Africa, South Africa, West Africa, Central Africa, those people are descendants of Ham. And Ham had a son, his name was Cush. And with Cush, he's the father of the Ethiopians. So whether they're Ethiopian, Eritrean, Somalian, those people come from Cush. So now with Cush, he had a son called Nimrod. And Nimrod began to be a mighty one in the earth, meaning a mighty man, a man of war. So after the flood, he had a son, and this son of his was a warrior. Read on.
Come on. Verse 9. He was a mighty hunter before the Lord. Wherefore it was said, even as Nimrod, the mighty hunter before the Lord.
Meaning, the Lord got reports from his angels that, listen, on the earth, there's a mighty hunter called Nimrod. When it means he's mighty before the Lord, meaning the Lord kept getting reports about this man called Nimrod. So meaning this man, after the flood, he was like a man that people looked up to, whether he was from Ham, Shem, or Japheth. You acknowledge this man Nimrod as a mighty one on the face of the earth. Read on.
Verse 10. And the beginning of the kingdom was Babel, and Erech, and Akkad, and Calneh, and in the land of Shinar.
All right, so now remember, he's a mighty hunter. So, you know what I mean? In life, what tends to happen, if someone's mighty, if someone is powerful, people look up to you, and people came under Nimrod. And while people was under him, he built civilizations. He built a Babel, which was his first one. He built his second one called Erech and Akkad. In Hebrew, Akkad means one. So meaning this was a place where everyone was unified. Meaning in that city, Akkad, Yahweh Bashim Hashem Barakatah.
Yahweh Bashim Hashem Barakatah. Shalom, sir.
Come, sir. Young, looking like he's about to record a song over there or something.
Yes, sir.
All right, man. So, yeah, we went into it. So, basically, this man in Nimrod, being a mighty hunter, people came up under him, and he started to build civilizations. The first one being Babel. Then he built another place under him called Erech. Then another called Akkad, Calneh, and Shinar. So under this man, people was building up civilization under him, and he was like their king. If you read verse 11.
No one can. And out of the land went forth Ashur and built Nineveh and the city Rehoboth and Kala.
There, so now, from Nimrod, Ashur, who the father of the Assyrians, he went and he built civilization as well. So now what we're first going to do, we're first going to show you that the Bible is right about civilization after the flood. You got people out there saying that, Egypt is the oldest civilization, or some parts in Ethiopia, what some people like to say. So what we're going to do first, before we get into the history of Nimrod, this is a book called A True Science Agrees with the Bible. The author is Michael Bowden. If you could put that to the camera, just show him. So this book here, it attacks the Bible in a science way, showing you that, the flood and, certain things that even on a science aspect, it can happen, because what people like to do is to go, well, you will only find that in the Bible, but could that really happen? So this gives you like a science side of it, if you get what I'm saying. All right, so this is, in this section of the book, page 29, is going into the ark and, just basically the flood and the early civilizations on the earth. This is page 29. Oh, yeah, sure. So, that's the highlighted part there. It's called the Fertile Crescent. All right. All right. So, I'm gonna read that and break down what this man's saying. All right. Archaeologists have for many years admitted that the earliest known center of civilization was in what they refer to as the Fertile Crescent. So now, for those of you that don't know, that's the Middle East. So that's, like the land of Palestine, Saudi Arabia, Afghanistan. That's called the Fertile Crescent. The land of the Tigris and Euphrates that constitute Iraq today. This confirmation that the earliest civilization was in that area recorded in the Bible is a witness to its accuracy. There have been attempts to claim that there were even earlier centers of civilization elsewhere, but these have little support. Like I said, there's people out there that try to go, there's earlier civilizations before the civilizations of the Middle East. Those have little support, meaning there's not enough evidence to back it up. The Fertile Crescent covers a huge area of many thousands of square miles that would have contained many cities, all united in one language, and that goes with the Bible. We just read in Genesis how Nimrod had a Babel, Akkad, Erech. So it's saying where the Bible said that this happened, it makes sense. It's a resourceful land. It's a flat, plain land where those civilizations could have been built and people would have been united under him. You wouldn't find that in Egypt. You wouldn't find that in Central Africa. But in the Middle East, where the Bible said it happened, even on a historical standpoint, it makes sense that it happened there with the resources and the structure of the land, if everyone understands.
Can't, sir.
All right, then. So what we're going to do We read about Nimrod. So now we're going to show you in some history. 1 second. Matter of fact, before I get to Nimrod, I'll just actually no, I'll stick to Nimrod first. Keep it simple. So I'm gonna get into the Wikipedia first, then I'm gonna get into some more history on him on what he did, which made him become a mighty hunter. All right.
Quran, verse 12. And rose in between Nineveh and Calne, the same is a great city.
There, so in Nimrod, he ruled a lot of land in the Middle East. So even from under him, sure, who is the father of the Assyrian Empire, even under him, he went and built other places as well, which in the book I read, you mean where it says it happened, it makes sense and it is very logical as well. But right now we're in the Wikipedia. Put it on the big screen. Bear with me. So this is Ninus. Now, for time's sake, I'll just say in Assyrian history, they speak about this man called Ninus, and you're gonna find out this man is Nimrod. So we're gonna show you, right? So Banyamyan, if you could. Scroll up. I mean, if is it readable?
Can't, sir. Can't. Ninus, Greek, Nivok. According to Greek historians, writing in the Hellenistic period and later, was the founder of Nineveh, also called Nivo Atoig, city of Ninos in Greek, ancient capital of Assyria. The figure of figures with which he corresponds in Assyrian record is uncertain. An association.
Okay. So I'll just give you a rundown. So even in the Bible, when you read of a city called Nineveh, in translation, it means city of Ninus. So meaning with Nimrod, he sent a show out to go and build up more places. And of course, Ashur, who was under him, he called Nineveh the city of Ninus. All right, so I'm gonna scroll down some. So now let's read about what he did. So this is the Hellenistic historiography.
Many early accomplishments are attributed to Ninus, such as training the first hunting dogs and taming horses for riding.
So now in the Bible, when it says Nimrod was a mighty hunter, look at what he did, man. You know what I mean? Once the flood was done and people started to have kids and man began to multiply, this man started training hunting dogs and taming horses for riding after the flood. So with this man, people looked up to him, you know what I mean? Or he'll set his dogs after or something, you know what I mean? He's someone that after the flood, you know, he was a man of war. Reader?
For this accomplishment, he is sometimes represented in Greek mythology as a senator.
All right, so for those that don't know, a senator is a Greek, it's not real, but it's a Greek animal they believed in where it was a human, but half of his body was of a horse. So we have horse legs, but then from the waist up, it was a human being. So from the head to the waist, it was a human being, had its arms, but then waist down was the body of a horse. So in Greek mythology, the centaur represents Nimrod. Skip some of this. All right, let me get to the point. So now, this is how much land he conquered in his time. So he had all these people under him because he was a mighty hunter. So he had India, Afghanistan, you know what I mean, the Middle East, Turkey, etc. So meaning under him, when the Bible says Nimrod was a mighty hunter before the Lord, look at what this man did after the flood. He had all people under him. All right, let me skip. All right, then. So this is notifications. So let's see who this man Ninus in Assyrian history is. Read that for me.
Another one, sir. A number of historians, beginning with the Roman Septalion, asserted that Ninus' opponent, the king of Bactria, was actually Zoroaster, or first of several to bear his name, rather than Oxyrates.
So remember now, what it's saying is in Assyrian history, you hear about this man, but for a time, no one couldn't identify who he was. Let's read the next paragraph.
Ninus was first identified in the recognitions part of Clementine literature with biblical Nimrod.
There you go. So now, for those of you that don't know, Clementine, he was about 80 AD. So when he came across this Assyrian history, he knew it was Nimrod. He goes, nah, that Ninus is the biblical Nimrod. Read on.
Who, the author says, taught the Persians to worship fire. In many modern interpretations of the Hebrew text of Genesis 10, it is Nimrod, the son of Cush, who founded Nineveh.
Okay, so now what they're saying is when we read Genesis 10 and 11, it says, out of that land went forth Ashur. So it goes, in some translations, it says Nimrod did it. Now, I'm going to ask you a question. Is that a contradiction?
La sir.
Okay, so why is that not a contradiction? There you go. I said that. Anyone else got anything?
Agreed, sir. It adds up. It ties in with the Bible.
There you go. So in the Bible it says Ashur went and founded Nineveh. In history, Nimrod sent Ashur, and even Nineveh means city of Ninus. So they're both saying one and the same thing. You know what I mean? So that's not a contradiction. You know what I mean? Because Nineveh means the city of Ninus. You know what I mean? So whether Nimrod sent him to do it, the point is that place existed. It's in his name. Whether he sent him or Asher went on his own accord, the point is, you know what I mean? They're saying one and the same. There's no error or I don't know about that. You know, they're both saying the same thing. You know what I mean? Whether he was sent or he did it independently, he built a city for Nimrod. That's the point that matters. All right, let's get the second one. Second in this. All right, so this is another one. So this is from the Amazing Bibles timeline. So this website is about Bible history. So it gives you like history and things relating to the Bible. All right, so this one is King Ninus or Nimrod. Mausa, you able to read that or need me to zoom in?
I'm trying to get it up on a big computer so I can get to it. Give me a few seconds. Because I'm on the phone. So.
I'll zoom in on it as well. I think that writing is very fine. Any better? Okay, got a question from a trooper Yakawam. Slacky Adawan. What's the timeline app called? Okay, let me grab that. It is called Amazing Bible Timeline. All right then. Is it readable or not quite?
Okay, Ninus or Nimrod. The King Ninus was believed to be a founder of the ancient capital city of Assyria, Nineveh. There were numerous things credited to him, such as being the first to train dogs for hunting and horses for riding, giving him the symbol of the centaur. In Greek mythology, he is found on the Bible Times during the 19th century BC. This
All right.
article.
Sorry. So again now, you mean we read in the Wikipedia, but some people don't like the Wikipedia to go, well, anyone can put anything in that, you know what I mean? So we went to something that someone would say, okay, then this is history. All right. So again, just like the Wikipedia saying the same thing, that you know what I mean, he's known for training dogs for hunting, horses for riding, giving him the symbol of the centaur in Greek mythology. You know what I mean? And now in the Bible timeline, they're saying this man was about the 19th century BC. So that would be like 19th century. Damn, so that's like in the BCs, that's like 2000 BC. So they're saying, you know what I mean, this man was around at that time. Now, does that mean that date is accurate? No. All right. So don't get too caught up on dates. Just know that there's proof of him existing. That's what matters, right? When you try to play the date game, that's where you get headaches. That's where things get complicated. The point is, there's proof of him existing, and that's the evidence that you want. All right. All right, we'll scroll down some. Okay, read on.
Karawan Khan. The name of King Ninus with his wife Queen Queen Semiramis was first mentioned in the historical account of Assyria written by Catius of Sindes, who asserted to have gained their knowledge from their court physicians of Artaxerxes II.
Uh-huh.
Ninus was further mentioned by the European historian up to the 19th century.
Okay, so now I'll break it down. So what happened was, if you notice, when the Romans ruled, yeah, they paid historians from many nations to write about their history. So you got the Josephus. Josephus was commissioned by Rome to write about the Israelite history. That's why people read the Josephus today. Menethus was a Egyptian historian, also under Rome. They wanted to know about Egyptian history, so they paid him. So with the Assyrian history, these guys under Rome, Setius and Cnidus, they were two historians that Rome used to write about Assyrian history. And with these men who are of Assyrian origin, they, knowing their history, spoke about this man called Ninus, which we'll show later on was Nimrod. Read on.
King Ninus was the son of Belos, Bel, which may mean Bahal or Lord in Semitic language. It was thought that he reigned for 52 years, and in 17 years he was able to add all of West Asia to his colonies. With the aid of Arabas, King Arias, he was the first to build an empire.
Okay, so start there. So it's letting you know this man, in his 52 years, of him being a king, he was able to get Asia, man. So he had the Middle East and even some of the Far East. He was able to get that under his reign, man. So the few people that branched off and went there, he ruled them too. He literally went everywhere just conquering. And also, he was the first to build an empire, which goes with the Bible. When it mentions Nimrod, what does it do? Talk about he built this place, that place, meaning people was around, but he was the first to build an empire, meaning all these people are under him, and he's the king. Read on.
He was the first to build an empire. He won the battle against the king of Armenia and Barazena, and the king Pharos of Media, crucifying the latter.
So meaning any empire that was against him, he beat them, he dominated them, and that's why it's heavy. That one thing that always got me is, why does the Bible mention Nimrod? Why? This is after the flood. Why does it pinpoint him out? Why him? That's something that always bothered me. Like, okay, if this is so long ago, what is so special about this man? And then when you start to go into the history of him, that's why the Bible pinpoints him out. Because after the flood, he pretty much had what's called the known world under him. You had basically everyone after the flood just under him. And that's why, in Genesis 10, it's talking about, this nation, that nation, but then it individually points him out for what he did. And now you can see why. Let's get some more. All right, I'll scroll down. Time's sake, we've got quite a lot of history. Right, read that. Mythology and the Bible.
Khan. Mythology and the Bible. King Ninus was first associated with the biblical mighty warrior Nimrod in Clementine literature entitled Recognition. Recent interpretation of Genesis 10 in the Bible states that it was Nimrod who established the city of Nineveh.
Okay, so just like the Wikipedia saying the same thing, that King Ninus is associated with the biblical mighty warrior Nimrod. So just like after the flood, this man that was just a mighty hunter, someone you didn't mess with, those attributes clearly match this man called Ninus, who's from Assyrian history. Read on.
When translated literally, the word means the inhabitation of Ninus. Apollodorus further asserted that Ninus is Nimrod, with the support of Justin and Diodorus. Historical texts pointing out that Ninus had the same leadership attributed as that of the biblical Nimrod.
And there you go, man. Even historians know that. Listen, like in Assyrian history, this man Ninus that you read about, that's Nimrod. The attributes, everything what the Bible talks about this person, that's Nimrod. You know what I mean? So Nimrod did exist, and is he in history? Yes. And you know what I mean? The Assyrians wrote about him, the Greeks wrote about him, even the centaur represents Nimrod. That whole mythological half man, half horse thing, that's meant to be Nimrod because he taught people how to ride horses after the flood. So, you know what I mean? So, we got that there. We can stop sharing. All right. So, now going to get into the. All right. So, Benjamin, if you could give me Genesis 11:1.
Canada one concert. Genesis chapter 11, verse 1. And the whole earth was of one language and of one speech.
Okay, so now again, just like with Nimrod, this is after the flood. So now, what some people don't understand is Genesis 11 is talking about while Nimrod reigned. Now, in Genesis 10, it's breaking down the genealogies and it just points Nimrod out. Genesis 11, this happened in Babel, one of the cities of Nimrod. So at this point, the whole earth was of one language and one speech. So it wasn't like now where people speak different languages. People have different dialects of those languages. This was one time where the whole earth spoke the same language, the same speech, meaning they all had the same understanding of that language. Read on.
Verse 2. And it came to pass, as they journeyed from the east, that they found a plain in the land of Shinar, and they dwelt there.
There you go. Remember, in Genesis 10, what was the name of one of the cities of Nimrod? Shinar. So now it's going more in depth. So as they journeyed, they saw this land and they knew this land was good to build an empire on. And of course, the Bible's telling you that land was Shinar. Read on.
Verse 3. And they said one to another, Go to, let us make brick and burn them thoroughly. And they had brick for stone, and slime had they for mortar.
All right. So now this is telling you what they used to make things. So Let us make brick and burn them thoroughly. And they had brick for stone and slime for a mortar. So now, this is key. So this is telling you what resources they had in the building of the tower. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna go back to this book. True science agrees with the Bible. So I'm gonna get something for you. Quick. All right. So now this is in a section, the Tower of Babel, and let's see what it says and if it lines up with the Bible. As man became more advanced in his civilization and able to undertake larger projects, he desired to make huge structure as a symbol of his greatness in his eyes. It is thought that the tower may have been a ziggurat. I'm going to show you what a ziggurat is as well. With many steps to the top. Some have suggested that it may have been for the positioning a table or instrument with signs of zodiac. So this is saying, you know what I mean, what might have been on the top of it, that's irrelevant. But even they say, but there's little support for this. All right, so now this is what you're going to find out, which lines up with the Bible. There are about 32 sites of ziggurats in the Mesopotamian area, but 2 of them are more likely location of the Tower of Babel. Babylon, founded by Nimrod, was a large city with a ziggurat. Unfortunately, the original structure has long since gone, but an early king claimed he was rebuilding an older one that had been destroyed. This was later destroyed and rebuilt by Nebuchadnezzar II. So, meaning, of course, the original one you're not going to find, but the Babylonian king said he was rebuilding it. So, by what he said, they know roughly where it is because he was going to rebuild that. You know what I mean? Because why? Ancient Babylon is a China on a map. This was described by Herodotus in 460 BC, from which an idea of these constructions can be drawn. It is measured 300 feet, which is 90 meters, and 108 feet, 33 meters high. So it was a big, you know what I mean? It was a big job. There are 5 platforms, but others had 7 and were as high as they were wide. The top structure was cubic, glazed brickwork with different colors. The top structure Herodotus saw was inhabited by a chosen woman who furnished it with a couch and a table. So basically, this is giving you some idea of what the Tower of Babel would have looked like. But there's a bit more about this, about what it consisted of. Bear me 1 second. All right, then I'll have to move on, but I'll find it, and it literally lines up with what we just read. Read on in Genesis.
Canada 1 concert. Verse 4. And they said, go to, let us build us a city and a tower whose top may reach unto heaven.
All right. So again, it's really high. like what we read in the history, something 33 meters high. That's huge, man. So when it said reach unto heaven, yes, it was a very tall, you know what I mean, bit of construction for its time. Read on.
And let us make us a name, lest we be scattered abroad upon the face of the whole earth.
So meaning, along with that, they knew what they was doing was wrong. They're like, listen, let's make this quick. Lest we be scattered all over the whole earth. So meaning, you mean they knew what they were doing was wrong, and they knew that the Lord wasn't with it. That's why they're like, let's do it. Lest we be scattered all over the face of the whole, all of the face of the whole earth. So what I'm gonna show you is I'm gonna show you the drawing of what is called a Assyrian ziggurat, which is more than likely what the Tower of Babel would have looked like. So remember now, once the flood happened, you know, something like this is amazing. Something like this is, yo, look at that work, man. And listen, all this is being built under Nimrod. Imagine how powerful it must have been that people are just building this under him, man. But I found the part I'm looking for. So when it said they burnt a brick and a slime, this is in the same part. Right. So this reads, the Encyclopedia Britannica notes that the tower was burned in extremely hot fire, probably due to the use of bitumen and reed matting used in the core. Many ziggurats were built with a bitumen saline in the AV, as stated in Genesis 11 and 3. And we just read that. It said, yes, what did Genesis 11 and 3 say?
Canada one can. It says, and they had brick for stone, and slime had they for mortar.
There you go. So you mean that a slime that made it catch fire? So you know what I mean? So when it says the Lord, he destroyed it, you know what I mean? The Lord just, you know what I mean? Now, I'm not saying this is how it happened, but the Lord could have just made it burn up from the materials that they was using on it. There you go. You know what I mean? Listen, we got a construction man in the class, and he can tell you bitumen is flammable. So you build something that big with lots of bitumen, that's gonna light that. You know what I mean? That's gonna light up. And you know what I mean? They're saying the fall of it, more than likely, that was the case. So you know, the Lord had it burn, or the Lord, you know what I mean? It blew up. You know what I mean? So however the Lord had done it, it was His will that did not remain. That's the point. But yeah, bitumen is a flammable material. It's like a tar, like you know what I mean. Like some people that have a flat roof, they use a lot of bitumen on it, and you know what I mean, and that's dangerous. Nah, trust me, you have a flat roof filled with bitumen on top, you're gonna have a problem, man. They're keeping the fire going. That's why when they have the bitumen on the roof, they put this underneath a lining so that it doesn't catch on the wood or nothing, because that bitumen gets hot. And of course, you know, not having the technology we have now, they built it with that, not knowing that it was too flammable. That's a building made for fire, man. And that's what happened. All right. Let's read on.
Canada one can, sir. Verse 5. And the Lord came down to see the city and the tower which the children of men builded.
All right. So now let me ask you a question. Did the Lord literally come down and have a look at it? There you go. I got one answer. Mousa.
Canada one can. He did. Send his angels, isn't it?
That's right. Listen, that's on point, man. Bun Yumian, you had the answer as well, or
Yes, yeah, Khan, sir. The same. You send his representative, which would be the angels.
there you go. So the Lord didn't literally come down and have a look. He sent angels, and a precept is with Lot. When the Lord got reports about Sir Adam and Gomorrah, what does the Lord do? He sent angels to go and investigate. Go like, it is true. I mean, I'm getting all these reports. I want these angels to go down and investigate. And likewise with the tower, it was that bad that the Lord had to send angels to investigate. So while there's people working on it, little do they know that there's angels getting a report like, yeah, they're building that. And then what? To bring it back to the Most High. Read on.
Verse 6. And the Lord said, Behold, the people is one, and they have all one language. And this they begin to do, and now nothing will be restrained from them, which they have imagined to do.
So now I'm asking you another question. So now many people don't understand this verse, and they go, well, nothing is restrained from them what they want to do. And people take this as, if they want to beat the Most High, they can. If they want to do anything, nothing holds them back. What is this really saying? And the answer's right there.
Basically, you're saying that that nation, they can basically do what they want. He wasn't really, with them. But for the wrong they're doing, he was still looking.
You got it. All right. So now, this doesn't mean if they wanted to beat the Most High, they would. Like, there's nothing withheld from them. Read that verse again, and I'll break it down.
Canada one can. And the Lord said, Behold, the people is one, and they have all one language. And this they begin to do.
So you want to start right there. So now the Lord's like, listen, everyone's one. They got a language, and this is what they're doing. They're trying to build something to fight me because they're all one. Read on.
And now nothing will be restrained from them.
So remember now, because they're all one, they're doing anything they like, even the dumb imaginations of their mind. Why? Because they're one. So what was the best thing to do? Divide them so that they don't have dumb thoughts in their head about fighting the Most High. You got your nation over there. You got to build. You got things to do. Because they're all one, they started to have vain imaginations. If you understand, I haven't lost anyone.
Come, sir.
I was making sure if you don't understand, I can break it down again. It's not a problem. So meaning, all right, it's like, all right, have you ever met someone and they're not doing anything? And because they're not doing anything, they start to think vain thoughts, do things that don't make sense. And all of that happens because they got nothing to do. Well, in this case, because everyone was one, they're starting to think, yeah, we're going to fight the Most High. We're going to build this up to heaven. Those like, nah, man, they got too much. You know what I mean? Because they're all one, they got too much going on. You know what? Let's occupy them. Let me just divide them. They go over here, focus on their people. Go over there, focus on your people. Why? Because they're all one.
That's too much time on their hands.
There you go. As what Akara once said, they had too much time on their hands. They had time to build ziggurats. They had time to do all these things, which, it was vain. So the Lord's like, you know what? I'm going to divide them languages. I'm going to give them something to do, man. got too much time thinking they're gonna fight me in heaven, and all manner of things that is not going to happen. Read on.
Canada one can. And now nothing will be restrained from them, which they have imagined to do. Verse 7.
Why? Because they're all one, and anything that comes into their dumb mind, we can do it. We can do it. And Lord's like, nah. You know what? Man on the earth needs something to do, man. So let's find out what the Lord did to solve this issue that he had at the time. Read on.
Canada one can. Verse 7. Go to, let us go down, and there confound their language, that they may not understand one another's speech.
There, so the Lord's answer for this was to confound their languages. The word confound means to confuse. So the Lord's saying, listen, how I'm going to solve this, I'm going to confuse their languages so that what? They don't understand each other. And then now they're going to start to divide. They're not going to be just under Nimrod. People are going to start to divide and want to be with their people. Why? Because they understand each other. Read on.
So the Lord scattered them abroad from thence upon the face of all the earth. And they left off to build the city. They left off to build the city.
So I'll break it down. So where they built this a tower, they left off from there. So the people that lived in Shinar, the different nations that were there, they broke off. Once they had their own language, people started to migrate other places. Go, now, I don't understand these people. I'm going here. The Africans went to Africa. Everyone went to places of their own. Why? Because they couldn't understand other people over time. Read on.
Canada one can. Verse 9. Therefore is the name of it called Babel, because the Lord did there confound the language of all the earth.
All right. And so now, even that word in the Hebrew is Babel, and it means to confuse. So it's called that because in that place, that's where languages got changed, and different races were confused. Like, I don't quite understand him, So we begins to leave, man. We begins to, getting our camels and up and out, and go find us a place for ourselves. Why? Because they didn't understand each other. So from that point, the city of Nimrod, which was a Shinar, was called Babel, because from that point, people didn't understand each other. So now, of course, some people say that's a lie, that can't happen. You know what I mean? So let's get into some history and some science on the situation. All right. So this is another one. I'm going to have to. So this subject here is just focusing on language of the Bible, and can something like this happen? We're going to find out. All right. So this is researchlinks.com. As you can see, it's a science, religion, and a culture. So this is going into language in the Bible. So of course, there's a lot to read. I would never expect any brothers to read all of this. You know what I mean? So this is the Tower of Babel account, a linguistic consideration. So this is talking about the language side, the confounding of the language. And let's see, if something like this can happen. All right, so I'll just summarize this. So this is going into, for so many years, people believe this to be a myth that, come on, how did people's language change, and now language is under earth, and people have always thought of it as a joke. So in this, it's going to give you names of historians and people that deal with language. All right, 1 second. Right. There's a lot to read, but just skim to what we do need. So all here is saying many historians, they've believed it to be a myth. All throughout history, it's been called a unacceptable myth, meaning people that believe that basically they're accusing that the record we have to be a myth in regards to the language. All right, so let me get what I need. All right, let me get it. All right, I got it. So, ironically enough, I'll highlight it if that helps. Is it readable to anyone, or that's a bit too?
Ironically enough, much of the historicity, most of the hostility among academic towards the biblical account may even derive from mistaken mention about the account. Is even claimed we must be careful to distinguish what some have assumed attribute to the account from what the account actually says.
All right, so I'll break it down there. So he's saying the reason why people don't believe it is because they mistake what it's saying in Genesis. All it says is the Lord confounded their languages. But what comes to mind when a Christian reads that? Immediately the Lord confounded the languages there and then. Bam! Everyone had their own language. It doesn't say that. All it says is the Lord confounded languages. This could have happened over time. Could have been 100 years. Could have been 10 years. It doesn't say immediately, boom, languages got confounded and, people had their own languages. It doesn't say that. It says the Lord confounded languages. It didn't give a time. But, in the Christian church, for so long, a lot of people think it happened immediately. You know what I mean? As soon as the Lord said it, you know what I mean? People started speaking all the different languages. And it doesn't say that. That's a notion that people have had for a long time. But the Bible verses in Genesis 11, it doesn't say that. Read on.
Actually, look at the account closely. In fact, we may be surprised at what we see. As one linguistic has noted, for example, while the account does indicate a common original language, it does not claim that the language was Hebrew or that God necessarily used a supernatural process in confounding the language. And the account doesn't even claim that the diversification of language was an immediate event.
There you go. So just like what I said, it doesn't say that it was an immediate event. Now, of course, in the UPK, we say that the Lashawan Kodash is the original language. Of course, they're saying, that's not the case. Would we agree with that? No.
No.
But the point is, people did have one language, and like it said, it doesn't say there was an immediate event. It doesn't say that. You know what I mean? People think, how can immediately people speak different languages? So now I'm gonna scroll down. All right, I got you. So here he used confusion of languages.
Can you want me to read, sir?
Kanye, you got it.
Can. He used a confusion of languages to scatter the people. This alternative interpretation, which can be shown to be consistent with well-established principles of historical linguistics, will be examined in light of the scriptural text, historical linguistics, and folkloric accounts from widely separated cultures. By exploring this possible interpretation, I do not claim to be able to prove that the event at Babel actually happened. As with some of the remarkable events recounted in Scripture, many things come down to a matter of faith. But I do hope to show that when the account is examined for what it actually says, rather than what others have claimed for it, it presents intriguing possibilities for even the most secularly oriented scholars. In any event, I hope to show that many scholars have been too hasty in their dismissal of the biblical account. There is likely much about this account that we really don't understand.
I got yeah. So it's breaking down. So it's gonna show that okay then, while for so long people haven't believed it, if you stick to what it says, and now he's gonna show you, can this happen? So he's gonna give you some examples and then go into language. If you can read it for me as well, in the 1970s.
Canada one can. In the 1970s, at the conclusion of the Vietnam War, the United States Air Force prepared a glossary of recent slang terms for the returning American prisoners of war.
All right. So now what he's doing to show that, that the Lord confused languages, he's using a modern example. So in the 70s, there was the Vietnam War. America went to war with Vietnam over the opioids. And there was prisoners of war. So there was people that was captured by the Vietnamese and they lived over there. So now they were doing a glossary of recent slang terms. So a glossary is like a small book of slang terms. So meaning a slang term is not a proper English. It's using the English language, but the words are improper. Read on.
Fromkin and Rodman, 1993-301. This booklet, which was designed to help the POWs in their adjustments, resulted from the recognition that the American English lexicon, at least among the youth, had changed enough during the isolation of these prisoners to justify this type of project.
So now, is the Tower of Babel a myth? Even in the English language, Vietnam prisoners of war, when they were released, they had to read a book on slang and different terms, meaning if they would have just come to America, they wouldn't have understood what the hell the next generation was saying. So they had to read a book of slang terms so that when they got back into American society, they could understand what was being said. So even in a modern term, they were still using the English language, but there was words of the English language they wouldn't understand. So is the Tower of Babel far-fetched? No. This happened in the 70s, and some got released in the 90s, and they had to get taught on updated English words, or otherwise they wouldn't understand. So is the Tower of Babel a myth? No. When something like this happened recently, in recent history, let's get some more.
God, it is an axiomatic fact that languages continually change.
Oh, so we're gonna start right there. It is a axiomatic fact that languages continually change. Remember now in the Bible it says the Lord confounded languages. It didn't say immediate. But what? It's normal that languages change. So yes, the people was of one tongue, one language, but languages change. So among different groups of people on the earth, languages change. It happens over time. They use this term to describe something, while as another group using the same language, they would use a different term. And over hundreds of years, languages are going to change. That's going to happen. So is the Tower of Babel far-fetched? No. When that happens today, read on.
Under normal circumstances, the speakers of a given language continue to understand one another as they make the changes together.
All right, so now this is what you need to understand. So if a language does change, if the people stay together, they both make the change, so they both understand. If they stay together, read on.
If, however, a division occurs within a single speech community, physically isolating some speakers from others, then it is only a matter of time before the separated communities begin speaking differently from each other, since various groups continue to experience linguistic change independently of each other.
This man, that's how the Lord did it, man. Remember, you know what I mean? He said, if you stay together, then yes, you'll adapt to that change. But if you're in a community or you live isolated and your, understanding of the language is developing different from someone else, you and another group are gonna have two different languages. You and that group, you know what I mean? Now imagine if there's many groups, you are going to have different languages. This ain't far-fetched. This is something that people that study linguistics know about. It is normal. They understand that, yeah, languages develop. And if you don't stay around the people as these languages are developing, then you two are going to come up with two different languages. If you are isolated, read on.
Canada one cancer. Thus, a division or scattering of a once unified people may introduce a diversification of languages, with the separate communities eventually speaking different dialects and ultimately different languages.
There you go. So, what the Bible's saying, among people that know language, it makes sense to go, well, yeah. If people start to isolate and their language is developing, then yeah, eventually you're going to have different dialects and ultimately a different language. And you're going to have a different writing system over time. As you separate, yours is going to develop and develop till eventually you have a whole another language. You have a whole different writing system, meaning it's not far-fetched. People that understand language and they understand Genesis 11, it makes sense. But if you believe, a lightning came down and changed people's languages, then of course that's where the confusion starts. But the Bible doesn't say that. You know what I mean? It doesn't give you a timeline. But what? There's communities. You know what I mean? Just like, I'll give you an example. In Birmingham, we say pop. When we talk about a carbonated drink, we say pop. In London, they say fizz. You know what I mean? Like we go, yo, man, I want some pop. They're like, where's the fizz? Now that's two different. And there, and in the Caribbean, they say soda, meaning what? You mean people interpretate things different. We're talking about the same thing, but what? You mean we would say it in a different way. Now, if we were to stay isolated, we would come with different languages. We would come with different ways of breaking stuff down to what we wouldn't understand each other. But because we live around each other, we adapt to those changes. You know what I mean? We adapt to, well, he means pop, or in London he says fizz. We adapt to those things, but if we were completely isolated over hundreds of years, we would have different understandings, and we would need books and understanding each other, which people that study language, they understand it. Let's get some more. Read on.
Another one, Khan. It is such a process that is responsible for the development of the various Romance languages as Latin speakers spread across Europe and lived in separate communities. The brand of Latin that developed in the vernacular in France was different from the Latin in Spain and Portugal, and consequently, we have French, Spanish, and Portuguese, respectively.
And look at that. So, meaning, for those of you that don't know, Rome conquered Spain, you know what I mean, Portugal, and the Franks, which were the French. So, originally, those three countries spoke Latin, but what? They were separated from each other. Now, does French sound like a Latin now? No, it doesn't. Does Spanish sound like Latin? It has some Latin words, but does speaking Spanish sound like Latin? No. You got people that speak Portuguese. If anything, with a Portuguese, that sounds more like the Spanish language more than Latin. So these were three Latin-speaking communities separated, and what? You got French. Doesn't sound nothing like Latin. Doesn't sound nothing like Spanish. Doesn't sound nothing like Portuguese. Then you got Spanish, has bits of Latin, but doesn't sound nothing like French. Then you got Portuguese, doesn't sound nothing like French, doesn't sound nothing like Latin. But historically, these three countries spoke Latin at one point in time. So is the Tower of Babel and confounding of languages far-fetched? No, because if you acknowledge the French, the Spanish, and the Portuguese, they had one language, they had one speech, and now they don't. Let's get some more.
Next paragraph, sir.
Khan, yeah.
Another one, Khan. The historical relationship between languages such as Spanish and Portuguese is pretty easy to see. But language historians explain that languages as seemingly diverse as Russian, Spanish, Greek, Sanskrit, and English all derived from a common source, the Indo-European language spoken by a people who inhabited the Euro-Asian inner continent.
Okay, so for those of you that don't know, when they say a Euro-Asian, that's like Uzbekistan, Turkey, meaning it's in Europe and it's in Asia. So it's in the middle. So we like the Turks. They look like white people. They follow Islam. Some look Asian. That's called Indo-European, Euro-Asian, meaning you're in the middle of Europe and the Middle East. You get what I'm saying? So meaning saying all these languages, they come from one source. And people that lived in Euro Asia. And what's funny is Noah's Ark landed what? In the mountains of Ararat, which is in Turkey. So all of this is showing that the Bible's real. You know what I mean? Like all this history, this proves the Bible. It doesn't go against it. Read on.
Canada one can. Eventually, these people are supposed to have divided and migrated outward to various areas. Indeed, it was their scattering that accounts for the differences between the various descendant languages of the Indo-European language family. For example, Watkins 2000, Mallory 1989, and Mallory and Adams 2006.
All right. So meaning even historians know that, yeah, people can have one language, but when they divide, that language over time can become something else. So meaning historians know this. So reading Genesis 11, don't feel ashamed because people know this already, that you can have the same language, but if you separate that language, you get slang terms, and if isolated enough, that language can become something else with a different writing style, and you know what I mean, a different everything. All right, let's read the last paragraph, then get into some more.
For some years now, there has been an emerging discussion about the possibility that not only is the Indo-European language family related to other language families, but that all of the world's languages may have come from a common origin.
Just like the Bible. The Bible says that at one point man was of one language, one speech. And even historians on language go, it seems like really at one point in time, the whole earth had one language, just like the Bible. Read on.
Ruling 1994. This language diversification would have likely developed in many cases in the same way that Russian, German, English, Spanish, Latin, and Greek have all descended from a common Indo-European ancestral language after scattering outward from a common homeland.
Oh, there you go. So meaning, even they know, so they're using the analogy of Russian, English, Greek, meaning what? They have a lot of common words. They all come from the same place, but what? We speak English. I don't understand what a Russian man saying. But really, the languages come from a Indo-European origin. And likewise, the same common place is what? The Tower of Babel. Meaning people had the same common place, but what happened? They started to branch out, and taking that same language and being separate, you start to come up with another language naturally. Read on.
Another one can. The research into monogenesis of all the world's languages has met with hostility among many linguistic scholars. And even some linguists who might entertain the possibility of a monogenesis of languages nonetheless doubt that any evidence of such a common origin to all the world's languages would still remain and be demonstrable in modern languages of today.
Mm-hmm.
These scholars are skeptical of the methodology of those linguists working to demonstrate the common origin of all languages. A language sometimes referred to as proto-world.
Okay, so yeah, we got the point. So basically, what he's saying is people that doubt what the Bible says, you can use modern examples like Latin. Latin is behind French, Spanish, Portuguese, but that doesn't sound like Latin. If you go to Italy, they speak Latin, and if an Italian was to talk and a Frenchman, originally the French spoke Latin, but what being isolated, that French they're speaking doesn't sound like Latin. So you can use these examples and go, well, yeah, do you know what I mean? That can happen because in the Bible, putting the same methodology in place, it makes sense. It's not, I don't know about that, the Bible's talking about languages changing and, you know what I mean? I don't get that. You know what I mean? That happens. Okay, I got a few comments. It's from Ira. For me to speak Papimento, that is Mexia from Spanish, French, Dutch, English, Portuguese, I nearly understand all things, and that indicate that them alike. Okay, you see, so there you go, man. We got a brother that is bilingual. He's saying that to understand them, a lot of the languages were alike, and that's what you gotta understand. Many languages are connected, but what being isolated, you come with your terms and what it branches off, and then over a span of time, you come with your own language. Why? Because languages always evolve. It's commonly known among people that study language. It's the norm. They understand it. You know what I mean? All right. So now I went into the Tower of Babel. Just want to show you one last thing on that as well. I think this is a video. So they've done a digital video of it as well. So basically, again, from the archaeology, you know what I mean, and the research, they're basically showing you a depiction. So now this is saying this is how Babylon looked like 100%, but it's saying that it's something like this. An idea. So reading the Bible, get your mind going. Let me go back.
The Tower of Babel was the world's first skyscraper, as well as a symbol of the might and hubris of the ancient city of Babylon. The enormous building mentioned in the Bible has fascinated generation upon generation, although everyone has their own image of what it once looked like. Historians have only been able to agree on one thing: the tower was said to reach up to the sky. Herodotus, the father of history, described this symbol of Babylon as a wonder of the world. The Tower of Babel stood at the very heart of the vibrant metropolis of Babylon in what is today Iraq. It was a city of open squares, broad boulevards, and narrow winding lanes. But the city of cities, as Babylon was known by the ancients, eventually fell into ruin, and the residents of Babylon plundered the Tower of Babel and used its bricks to build their own houses. Long ago, the once mighty Babylon and its gargantuan tower sunk into the sands of the Iraqi desert and disappeared. Archaeologists have been working ceaselessly and successfully since 1811 to excavate the capital of the ancient world. It was aerial photography, however, that provided the first real clues as to the location of the tower. The photographs show the tower's square-shaped outline in the center of the city. Today, nothing remains but a watering hole. The tower was said to be almost 100 meters tall and was dedicated to Babylon's own god, Marduk. But even he was powerless to save this once mighty city.
And there you go, man. So, these things did happen. Archaeologists do the research, so regardless of regardless of what anyone says, the proof is out there. You know what I mean? That with Babylon, the Tower of Babel, it did exist. You know what I mean? Of course, all they have is a foundation to go by what historians said, and you can only get like an idea of it. So you know what I mean? Of course, 100%. Will anyone know how it looked like? No. You'll get like you'll get like a sketch of it, or you know what I mean, while it could have looked like, but no one can never say this is how it looked like. You know what I mean? So you're not gonna find that. Right, I'm gonna go back into this book. True science agrees with the Bible. Let's get on my last bit. So in the book, they're saying that people come from one place or one common origin of language. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna show you that this is something that historians know as well. All right, let me get it. All right, so this is talking about Noah's Ark and the flood. So what they did was, all over the earth, they went to people that live Aboriginal. They went to ancient records, and what you're gonna notice is everyone talks of a similar origin. So if you could, Kawan, you can put this page here. So put it that way and show it. So now this is a chart of what all ancient civilizations believe and Aboriginal people. So if someone lives in the bush somewhere, they spoke to them about what they believe. So the black means yes, the white means no. It might be the other way around. And the halves mean they believe in something like that. All right. So I'll break it down. And so on the right, they have man in transgression, which is Adam, divine destruction, favored family, art provided, destruction by water, human seed saved, animal saved, universal destruction, landing on mountain, birds sent out, survivors worshipped, divine favor unsaved. So all these nations had the same things in common: an ark, animals, basically all of them. You mean on the main parts? So the parts where you see more of the black, you know what I mean? These are things that all of them agreed on, showing you that mankind or all people come from descendants that were at one point in one place. So there's some things they don't agree on, like in their beliefs they don't. But in the middle, all of them agree on that, or the vast majority, like 99%, agree on basically the core things that you see in the Bible. So look, no one can't deny that at one point all the human race was in one place. So I'll read the things what they do agree on. So a ark provided, destruction by water, human seed saved. So that's what all empires agree on. They all agree with what the Bible calls Noah's Ark. That's what you mean. All of them agree on that. That's something that, the rest of it was here or there, but those 3 points, all of them agreed on that. Let me get some more. All right, so now they even went to Hawaii, and let's see what they said about the Hawaiians. The Hawaii account has many close parallels to the biblical record. Inua made a canoe and took his family and animals. After the floods, he emerged, mistaking the moon for Cain, the great god. He worshipped it. Cain came down on a rainbow and rebuked Inua and Asnua. Did this in mistake, he was not punished. So Cain left the rainbow behind as a token of his forgiveness. In all accounts I have read, I've never seen a reference to a rainbow in any pagan stories. It is interesting that this should, nevertheless, have been preserved by a tribe about as remote as you can be from Babel, the center of this aversion. So, meaning, even among Hawaiians, they speak about a flood and a rainbow. So, meaning, everyone would have had to be in one place for everyone to have the same history. Now, of course, over time again, things vary, people add on, take some away. But the point being is all people pretty much are saying the same thing, which again shows you that the Bible is the book of the Lord, man. So now this is another part, the Mayo, the people. These once lived in a large area south of China, but were later driven into the mountains of the southwest by a better armed Chinese. They recite their folk stories at weddings and funerals in verses kept by folklore story. The similarity to the Genesis account is remarkable, with references to man, rain, 40 days, 40 nights, the flood, the sending of a dove. Even the beginning of creation is to the similar opening of the words of Genesis. On the day God created heavens and the earth, many names are easily recognizable. Adam, with the descendants Seth, Lamech, Noah, Ham, Shem, Japheth, Cush, Mizraim, Elam, Asher. So meaning even in this, a group of a Chinese, they got Ham, Shem, Japheth, Noah, Adam. So that you can easily read their history and get the names. Okay. So now this is another part. So in Chinese writing, like every letter represents something, and this is going to show you about Noah's Ark as well in the writing. It's right here. So it breaks it down. So it shows you a boat, and like the people are 8, and even as you break it down, they go. It's remarkable what they're saying in their writing. All right, man. There you go. So again, all these things, it shows that listen, man, the Bible is the book of the Lord. Give me Isaiah 34 and 16. Right, let's grab that Isaiah 34 and 16.
Isaiah chapter 34, verse 16. Seek ye out of the book of the Lord and read.
All right, so Sakia, I break part down. It says, seek ye out of the book of the Lord and read. Meaning, if you want to seek, if you want to find the answer, seek the book of the Lord and read it, man. That's where your answer is. You got people following Egyptology, Pan-Africanism, Islam. seeking for an answer. It's saying, seek ye the book of the Lord and read that, man. If you want the answers, find that book. Read on.
No one of these shall fail.
Meaning what? None of the prophecies in this book fail, man. There's nothing in the book that hasn't happened or that is not going to happen, man. This is what you call a living book, man. Nimrod's in there, Tower of Babel. That everything in there doesn't fail. There's nothing you're going to read in the Bible and that didn't happen. That, you know what I mean? That's a lie. All of it happened. And people that say it didn't happen, they either misreading it or they don't understand it. Just like with the confounding of languages, many people read that and think immediately the language is changed when it doesn't say that. It says the Lord confounded the languages, went to history. People that are isolated to themselves over time could have the same language. The language it grows, and over time it can become something else among that group or that community of people. That's normal. That happens. None of it fails. There's no error. There's no discrepancy. There's no, oh, the Bible said that, but I don't know about that, Read on.
None shall want her mate.
And it says, none shall want her mate, man. Now, what does the word mate mean? Someone that you join to. So meaning you can't mate the Bible with some other book. You can't mate the Bible with the Book of the Dead. Meaning, once you find this book, you don't need nothing else. You don't need no other book inspired by God, which is really what it means. All right, again, some people read this and go, none shall want a mate, so I can't read a book on maths. I can't read English. Of course you can. This is talking about a spiritual book. You mean you don't want the main to mean like the hadiths, a Quran. That's what it's on about. Meaning any book claiming to be the book of God, you don't want that, man. You're gonna pull it in the bin, man. Why? Because you found the book of the Lord, man. Read on.
Canada one can. For my mouth it hath commanded, and his spirit it hath gathered them.
All right, so my mouth it has commanded, meaning what's in that came from the Lord's mouth, man. What Ezekiel wrote down, what Isaiah, Haggai, Habakkuk, the Lord's mouth commanded it, and those men wrote it down. Meaning this comes from the Lord. What was the last part, Slakia?
And his spirit it hath gathered them.
And his spirit has gathered them, man. Meaning what? The book of Ezekiel, the book of Isaiah, this book. Why? Because even in the past, there was fake books. There was people out there that, believed they was inspired by God. And those books wasn't gathered by the Lord, man. You know what I mean? And I don't want to divert, but even Muhammad, when you read the a Quran, there's things you read in there, it sounds like the Bible, but then it goes left. And that's because Muhammad heard those fake books, and that's why it's in his book. Because why? He read stuff that the Lord did not gather. Also, he heard things that the Lord did not gather, which is the point. Read on.
Verse 17. And he hath cast the lot for them.
Mm-hmm.
And his hand has divided it unto them by line.
All right, so what does that mean? Meaning, in the Bible, if you notice, in a prophecy, Isaiah has some, Ezekiel has some. Meaning the Lord, he gave it to them by line. So he gave Isaiah a certain amount. Then on the same event, he gave Ezekiel a certain amount. He gave Habakkuk a certain amount. Meaning the Lord's telling, listen, I did this. I gave this prophet this vision. I gave him that vision. Saying, listen, I did that. You know what I mean? So when you read it by line, the Lord did it. Read on.
They shall possess it forever. From generation to generation shall they dwell therein.
And listen, man, the book of the Lord, we dwell in this, man, and we possess it. Imagine so many religions of ancient time, people don't even know what they are. And listen, like the book of the Jews is alive to this day, man, being sold in every shop. You know what I mean? Alive and kicking, man. You know, in ancient times, there was many religions, and some people don't even know what they are. People worship Baal. You know of Baal, but the worship side of it, who knows? You don't know. All you know is it's an ancient religion. There you go. You know what I mean? As far as you're concerned, they're just worshiping a name. You don't know. While as this, it remains forever. People know about Exodus, what happened with Joshua. You know, that's amazing. Why? Because this is old, but it's still alive and very relevant. You know what I mean? Any more in that?
Sorry.
All right, man. That's the class. You know what I mean? Thawada for you brothers for the reading. And you know what I mean? Hopefully online, everyone understands. And we'll be doing this again next week, man. Breaking down another history class. You know what I mean? On something good, something relevant. And you know what I mean? Hopefully everyone takes notes. You know what I mean? And you can also look these things up too, man. Of all the history that gets brought out every week. All right, man. So with that, Akim, Shalom, Yahweh Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai Barakatham.
Yahweh Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai Barakatham.
All right, man.
Yo, what about the bomber clock to them boy, man? Bad mind never kill them. Suffocate on a pussy. Yo, status. Tell some boys we don't chat us. Anyway, my dogs go in on the street, them bad. Gun talking up with jeans member. If any somebody ever treat them bad, send the pussy them but meet them God. Louis V kicks, pan we feed them bad. Catch a new drip, dogs we beat them bad. Look how we just come and we a beat them bad. You know sister we's them dad. Hey, but anyway though, this a no playground. The Glock 19, they have to stay round. Now take no check with me payroll. Anything rise up, play down. Them a send check but they won't. Dog we will make it step if they don't. But at the same old, said them want smoke but the grabber done flame out. A couple gyal a come through. Gyal a WhatsApp what she gonna come to. She a give me tap and she swallow some juice. Gyal a suck cock till me Jonathan blow. Bentley van a come through. Convert to the drop top still have a sunroof. The dog them roll strap you want proof. Alright, wanna move. Anyway my dogs go in on the street them bad. Gun talking up with jeans member. If any somebody ever treat them bad, send the pussy them but meet them God. Louis V kicks, pan we feed them bad. Catch a new drip, dog they beat them bad. Look how we just come and we a beat them bad. You know sister we's them dad. Jeff say go fuck it up, so we fuck it up. Big up all of me friend them all who me never big up. All who know they are so, I ain't in a cup. Life shake up, you know me friend but I so big up. Greenfield say we tough, so we a fi bus. And all who a flip up and a lip up a fill it up. Girl pussy we buff, one give we a fuck. One the pussy bus, one her belly stuff with the fat cock. Nicky me give back shot really. Girl a bad hype up if you're not that pretty. Money say make you know him can't chat silly. Anything we beat we have a fat clock with it. Flick your bad with it, this a chop city. Anywhere we go we a lock that city. Money in a pocket city, fat billy. Don't come around if you're not family. Anyway my dogs go in on the street them bad. Gun talking up with jeans member. If any somebody ever treat them bad, send the pussy them but meet them God. Louis V kicks, pan we feed them bad. Catch a new drip, dog they beat them bad. Look how we just come and we a beat them bad. You know sister we's them dad.